a WikiVidi documentaries production. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. Kamikaze, Eminem album. Kamikaze is the 10th studio album by American rapper Eminem. Previously unannounced, the album was released on August 31, 2018 by Aftermath Entertainment, Interscope Records, and Shady Records. The album features guest appearances from Joyner Lucas, Royce to 5 feet 9 inches, Jessie Reyez, and uncredited vocals by Justin Vernon. Eminem, credited as Slim Shady, and Dr. Dre served as executive producers. While production for individual tracks comes from a variety of musicians, it was met with positive reviews from critics, but generated some controversy for use of a homophobic slur in several diss tracks. The album topped the charts in many places of the world, including Australia, Austria, Canada, Denmark, Finland, France, Ireland, Italy, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Recording and release. On January 8, 2018, Eminem unexpectedly released a remix to his revival song, Chloroseptic, featuring 2 Chainz and Fresher. In the song, Eminem mocked critics of Revival, concluding, "I just added to the fuel in my rocket pack. Till I'm ready to respond, then I'ma launch it at 'em. I'll be back." On January 22, 2018, photos revealed Michael made it in the studio with Eminem and Dr. Dre. During the Revival sessions, S1 tried to work with Eminem, but he refused. The producer kept sending him beats to use on future tracks that the rapper incorporated into Kamikaze songs. The afternoon before Kamikaze's release, Eminem posted a 15-second teaser of a new song on social media, featuring the logo for the superhero film Venom, without comment. On August 31, 2018, he released the album to digital music stores and streaming services without any promotion or pre-announcement, unlike the extensive marketing done for Revival. Billboard credits the success of the surprise release to Beyoncé's self-titled 5th studio album released in December 2013 without any promotion or pre-announcement, which was a critical and commercial success, ultimately changing the global release day for music from Tuesday to Friday. The album was sold on his website in several formats, including bundled with merchandise such as apparel. Eminem used social media services such as Instagram and Twitter to announce the release and has relied on the extensive feedback from diss tracks and internet hype to spread word of the album. Several weeks after the album's release and subsequent commercial success, Eminem took out a full-page ad in The Hollywood Reporter mocking negative reviews of Kamikaze, including The Hollywood Reporter's review itself. Although he had no marketing prior to the debut, Eminem had previously debuted freestyle rap, The Storm, at the 2017 BET Hip Hop Awards using similar lyrics to the eventual title track, and he directly referred to his experience performing it on The Ringer. He debuted a clothing line featuring the Kamikaze t-shirt the month prior. Producer Illa, the producer, sees the album as similar to the Slim Shady LP in terms of its ferocity, rather than the subdued Revival. American singer Justin Vernon of Bon Iver, whose vocals were uncredited on the song Fall, disavowed his participation in the album, claiming that he was not in the studio when the recording was made. A music video for Fall was released on September 4, 2018, addressing criticism of Revival. The music video was directed by Jessie Reyez, who previously directed the music videos of Framed and Caterpillar. A second video was released for Lucky You on September 13, 2018, and one for Venom followed on October 5, 2018. Artwork. The full album cover, front to back, features fighter pilot Lt. Mathers III, intentionally crashing an F-86 Sabre fighter jet into an unknown object. The artwork appropriates the cover design of the 1986 Beastie Boys album, Licensed to Ill. Eminem has cited them as an inspiration for several years, but did not give the band any prior consultation for the cover homage. Promotion for the album featured the same artwork in full, including the Eminem logo with added Japanese writing, neither of which was included on the album cover design made by Mike Saputo. Promotion for the album track, Venom, featured the logo from the motion picture Venom, The E in Venom was replaced with the character Eminem frequently uses on artwork. Critical reception. Kamikaze was met with mildly positive reviews from critics. At Metacritic, which assigns a normalized rating out of 100 to reviews from mainstream publications, the album received an average score of 62, based on 16 reviews. Aggregator Any Decent Music gave the album 5.6 out of 10, based on their assessment of the critical consensus. Asia Romano of Vox called the album Eminem's best in years, citing a return to the rapper's old-school sound after deviating with Revival. Ed Power of the Daily Telegraph also compared this album to Revival, calling Kamikaze a high-kicking, low-punching riposte, indicating it is a better release. Similarly, A. D. Amorosi of Variety sees the album as similar to Eminem's earlier work, stating, "His voice hasn't sounded quite so cranky, silly, impassioned, or enraged since his early days," and for XXL, Scott Gleischer calls the album a revisit of the Slim Shady persona. For Consequence of Sound, Dedrick Hendricks gave the album a B-, summing up, as a whole, "The album may not be impeccable, but it's the best he's released since 2010. M. Oliver of Pop Matters summed up his review, "Kamikaze is Slim Shady at his midlife best. Slightly less deviant. Not quite as funny, but revived, nonetheless," and gave the album 7 out of 10. Kitty Empire wrote for The Observer that Eminem is in full rabid underdog mode, at a time when hip-hop MCs are more relaxed, giving the album 3 out of 5 stars. At Hip Hop, Trent Clark gave the album a 3.9 out of 5, contrasting the work with Revival and denying this is a return to form, summing up, "After being faced with nothing to prove as the highest-selling rapper of all time, Eminem's found another challenge in perfecting the new style he's put on display." Writing for Vice, Robert Christgau regarded the album as being about hip-hop, his truest passion and sole area of undeniable expertise, rather than the larger emotional and political themes of what he conceived as a groundbreaking statement of principle, with Revival. In The Atlantic, Spencer Kornhaber addresses both comparisons with Revival and current hip-hop stars on Kamikaze, stating, "Really, though, Eminem is waging a war over aesthetics, and Kamikaze is a better listen than Revival, because its concision confirms Eminem's value as an entertainer. Certainly it's refreshing that in a genre especially obsessed with statements of dominance, Eminem doesn't disguise his feelings of irrelevance. He does, however, try to claim his influence." He added that the album, once again shows, Eminem is great at what he does in a more critical review. Stephen Kurz of Rolling Stone gave the album 2.5 out of 5 stars, situating Eminem in contemporary hip-hop by writing, "Eminem has no insights or ideas about the state of rap, nor does he have meaningful thoughts about his place within the genre. He probably doesn't even have a Spotify account. He raps only for the sheer thrill of hearing himself rap." The Hollywood Reporter's Johnny Coleman considered the album an epic fail, and described it as the work of an aging artist trying, and failing, to remain relevant by acting out. In Billboard, Charles Holmes said Eminem tries to stop his artistic decline by blaming everyone except himself, and concluded, "Eminem was once a titan of hip-hop, but he never owned it. The world and rap might not need Eminem or Slim Shady anymore, but it could do with a little more Marshall." In the New Zealand Herald, Sienna Yates praised Eminem for technically flawless flows and cheeky wordplay, as well as a thrilling command of cadence, but gave the album 3 out of 5 stars because he's just not saying much, and what he is saying smacks of ignorance and someone reaching for relevance in a world he's hell-bent on rejecting. "It's not fun, informative, challenging or entertaining, it's just a lot of technical skill and angry fist shaking." The Guardian's Alexis Petridis gave the album 3 out of 5 stars and commented on Eminem's generational difference with current hip-hop stars, summing up, "If you're going to listen to a middle-aged white man complain that hip-hop isn't as good as it used to be, it might as well be Eminem." Exclaim. S. Riley Wallace cited the anger of Eminem's early work, unnecessary homophobia, and the shortcomings of Revival in a middling review of 6/10. Angry, reactionary M is nothing new. Though his skill is absolutely unmatched, homophobic references and overly misogynistic bars in 2018 do feel excessively out of touch. It's not his best or his worst, but it's definitely what fans deserved 8 months ago. For Pitchfork, Mark Hogan gave the album 5 out of 10. Writing, Eminem's career has become an exhausting feedback loop, and Kamikaze flies straight into that downward spiral, criticizing it as yet another empty, intermittently tone-deaf onslaught of technical rap prowess and humorless juvenilia from an artist who once controlled the zeitgeist with ease, but praising his technical skills as a rapper and clever lyricist. In NME, Dan Stubbs gave the album 3 out of 5 stars, saying that Eminem is out of step with trends in hip-hop by writing. Teresa sensed Eminem struggles with the modern world, but stating that there are plenty of moments that remind us of EM's greatness. Stephen Thomas Earlywine of AllMusic also emphasized Eminem's technical ability and lack of inspiration. As sheer performance, Eminem's vocals remain a thing of wonder, which is why it's so dispiriting to hear him circling the drain, relying on old tricks instead of expanding his worldview. He has the musical skills to mature. He's just refusing to let himself act his age. In Spin, Jesse Fairfax criticized the tenor of the album, writing, Eminem's defensiveness seems to preclude whatever reckoning he could otherwise have with any creative shortcomings that may have led him here. NPR's Rodney Carmichael suggested that the album is a parody, writing, Eminem may be going out with a cliché bang on Kamikaze, but he hasn't sounded more like himself in years. Summing up his review with the critique, Kamikaze may not be a success on the surface, but Eminem has inadvertently succeeded at making himself the butt of his biggest joke yet. It's so funny he forgot to laugh. Commercial performance. In the United States, Kamikaze opened at number 1 on the Billboard 200 with 434,000 album equivalent units, consisting of 252,000 traditional album sales as well as 225 million streams, giving Eminem his largest amount of streams within a week. It became his 9th consecutive number 1 album in the country, tying him with Garth Brooks and the Rolling Stones for 5th most entries to top the chart, and had the year's 3rd highest first-week sales in the US as well as the 4th highest overall opening. He also topped the Artist 100 chart due to album sales and song streams. The album dropped 1 place to number 2 in its 2nd week behind Paul McCartney's Egypt Station, earning an additional 136,000 album equivalent units. All 11 songs entered the Billboard Hot 100, with Lucky You and The Ringer reaching numbers 6 and 8 on the chart. He is the 5th artist to debut 2 songs in its top 10 simultaneously. The album also entered atop the UK Albums Chart on September 7 with first-week sales of 55,000 album equivalent units, including 30,000 album equivalent streams, making Kamikaze the United Kingdom's 5th most streamed album in an opening week. As a result, Eminem surpassed Led Zeppelin and ABBA for the most consecutive albums to reach the nation's summit, with 9. It was also the top album in Scotland. The following week, the album retained the top spot, with 51% of its consumption coming from streams and garnered 29,000 units for the 3rd week to stay at number 1. It managed to stay atop the charts for 4 weeks. It additionally debuted at the top of the ARIA Albums Chart, giving Eminem his 9th number 1 album in Australia and the Canadian Albums Chart, becoming Eminem's 10th number 1 album in Canada after debuting with 44,000 album equivalent units. Other international charts that it topped include Austria, Belgium, the Czech Republic, Denmark, Finland, Ireland, Italy, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway, Sweden, and Switzerland. It retained top spot in Ireland the following 2 weeks. Kamikaze debuted at 6th in France, 4th in Germany, 8th in Hungary, 3rd in Poland, and 15th in Spain. After 1 week, it rose to 2nd in Germany, and 12th in Spain. On streaming music service Spotify, 5 tracks from Kamikaze were in the top 10 of the week of September 4, including the top 2 spots. At the iTunes Store, 3 songs were in the top 10 and Kamikaze topped the album charts in the first week of release. The album had the 5th strongest opening week for streaming in the United Kingdom with 30,000 equivalent units. Lucky You represents the first time that Eminem has topped the streaming songs chart from Billboard. Controversy. Throughout the album, lyrics criticize other musicians and several have responded publicly. Eminem and rapper Machine Gun Kelly have had an ongoing feud for several years, and Kelly released a diss track in response to Not Alike, titled Rap Devil, on September 3. Both songs were produced by Ronnie J. Kelly continued the feud at a concert, calling it a battle between the past and the fucking future. The song's title refers to Eminem's rap god, and Eminem went into the studio days later to record his own response, as did former D12 associate Bizarre. Eminem responded with Killshot on September 14 and Bizarre's Love Tap was released on September 20. Killshot garnered 38.1 million streams on YouTube in its first 24 hours and over 80 million views in its first week, making it the most successful debut for a hip-hop song and the third biggest debut in the platform's history. The track also debuted at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100, making it Eminem's 20th top 10 hit on the chart, tying him with Lil Wayne for most top 10 hits on the chart. Kelly has continued the feud publicly. Ja Rule responded on social media, reigniting a feud the two had 15 years prior. 6ix9ine, Iggy Azalea, Joe Budden, Diane Ward, Lupe Fiasco, and Lord Jamar have also responded publicly, with the first releasing the skit, Legend, that raps over Eminem's Lose Yourself. Artists including 50 Cent and Remy Ma have come out in support of Eminem. Musicians have criticized Eminem's use of the slur, faggot, including Dan Reynolds of Imagine Dragons, calling the rapper's language hateful, and Troye Sivan. Additionally, guest vocalist Justin Vernon distanced himself from the collaboration due to the message. Critics have also objected to the slur, such as Mikhail Street of Billboard, who wrote, "Eminem needs to be held accountable for using homophobic slurs," further adding, "The idea that listeners are too soft for critiquing the ways in which rappers weaponize the identities of others against them ignores how hip-hop is a reflection and arbiter of culture." Matt Miller of Esquire relates his use of the term to previous homophobic lyrics and calls it the biggest problem of the album. The BBC's Jimmy Blake summed up the first week of objections to Eminem's language and questioned if it is time for him to retire. Eminem later apologized in his Kamikaze interview with Sway Calloway posted to his website. "In my quest to hurt him, I realize I was hurting a lot of other people." In response to allegations that Not Alike sounds similar to Bad Baby's Hi Bitch, she has responded that she takes the comparison as a compliment. She revised the lyrics of 15 to pay respect to Eminem. Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Would you like to know more?